What's here now? As we come together, what's alive in you? What are the parts that are in the foreground? What voices do you hear? What sensations do you feel? Is there a sense of, oh, wow, we have Vendor and RC, and I don't know if we know them. Wow, what's this going to be? Or is there so a sense of, oh, it's Jessica's here. Nice, as we feel her heart. And is there, what's here for you? A sense of curiosity, like what's this time going to be? Or maybe a spiritual achiever. What am I going to get from this? What am I going to get from Jack today as he shares? Maybe there's a skeptic or a critic. A critic's its voice. Maybe if it was more peaceful, maybe if it was more resonant as self, that would be helpful. Maybe there's some discomfort. Is there any discomfort there in you? Then, then I can find a little bit of shame here, a little bit of unworthiness, but of something that just can't be relaxed. And then what's everything arising in? What's what's the what's the background? What's the beingness? What's the self that's here? A sense of spaciousness, openness, emptiness. What are you resting in? What's this body resting in? This body resting as. You can even know the beingness that this is made of. And so here we are. Welcome, everybody. So nice to see Jack and Sarah and David, Cole and Jessica, and then we get to meet Vendor and RC. This group's a little different from others in that as well. There's a sense of like we're in the living room together going on this journey. And so when there's small groups that I do, we ask everyone if they'll have their cameras on, and you're welcome to come to some of our larger ones.
I am outside. I'm sorry for that.
All right, welcome. And let me do my housekeeping first. Just 1 minute that I'm a mediator, not a psychotherapist. And so it's not the IFS of psychotherapy. It said friends and colleagues exploring together. If everyone's good, being responsible for their own journeys, if I could get a thumbs up, please. Thanks. And then secondly, I always record these, but only my image is recorded. Never, your image is never shared. However, the audio that you speak during the Zoom could be shared. And sometimes I share this for others who can't come. Sometimes I put it on my website for those that are interested. But this is different than other groups in that we're interested in the fulfillment that is here, that is your nature. So there's never a need to go into the story of parts, and you're welcome to, but there's never a need to do that because we're finding what is being longed for is here now. And so, and lastly, if you find at the end of the Zoom that there was something you said that you weren't comfortable with, just stay on with me and let me know, and I'll just delete it. No problem. If everybody's good with that, if I could get a thumbs up, please. Good. Is that cool, RC? Awesome. So here we are again. The 8 of us get to have this journey today. And so my curiosity for each of us, what's your loudest part that takes you from the peace of self, the peace of being? What's your loudest part? My friend Jack wrote me last night about the sense of the completeness that we are. This idea that the self is complete, that we are complete, that there's a radiant presence and fulfillment that we are. If there was one voice, one part that distracted you most from that, that was most obscuring that in your system, what would it be? And so for me, this is an example as we explore this. I have a very active connector from my youth. The sense of like walking into a classroom, walking into a party, meeting friends. To find safety, there was a sense of it found safety through connecting, reaching out and connecting. That's where safety was. And it still plays in me. If I walk into a party or an event, there'll still be a sense of there's not just intrinsic okayness here. It finds safety through connecting. And especially when it comes to people who are close to me in my world, it'll find safety through connecting. And it's a very beautiful part in what it does, that connection, but it also can really can obscure this intrinsic wholeness and fulfillment that I am. So what's it for you? What obscures it most in your system? And lastly, one of the premises of this work is that everything arises in this sense of the sky. And then there's the sky of self, of beingness. And then there's the weather that comes and goes. And the sense that the sky, our intrinsic nature, is this wholeness, is this completeness, is this perfection, this beauty, just as we are. Nothing needs to change. Is that real in your system? And whatever your answer is perfect. But how much is that known? Or maybe there's a skeptic, or maybe it's just like Sid, that's not the way I see it. And that's where we're not interested ultimately in what I'm saying or what Dick Schwartz or anybody else says. What we're interested in is your system, how you make sense of all of this. So that's a lot. And I have a thought that we could kind of go around and hear how this plays for everyone and then see where we go together. But I'm very interested in this that obscures it. And lastly, for Vendor and RC, in these groups, what I aspire for is the group to be even richer for you than if you had a one-on-one facilitation. Because in a one-on-one, we're just working with your system. In this, we get to hear from Sarah what her part is that obscures or how her system is playing. And is it really separate from ours? Part of the game here is to be able to find that as Sarah speaks, she's really speaking about our system too. Her parts are not foreign from ours. Herself, is it really herself, her beingness? Or is it more ours? Is it just her square or is it all of ours? All right, so that's my little like warm up. And who wants to go first?
Uh, I can.
Yay! Hi, how did you find your way here today?
I don't know. It's God's way of connecting me to work on my parts that are debilitating, to connect to my higher self. I don't know how I came across, but this more when I opened up. I was in a meditation class and then took a shower, and I opened up my phone. I was going to do something else, and this class was on because I signed up a whole bunch of on IFS on Facebook. I didn't know what I was going to get into, and I'm grateful for what I'm into already.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So here you are with these, like, look at the faces, the 7 of us that are here with you as we explore together. I mean, just to be here. Here we are. And then am I pronouncing your name Vinder? Is that?
Yeah, perfect.
Great. And so when we speak of a part that's like the loudest, that obscures beingness for you, what do you find?
What was a lie when I entered? I was wearing this scarf on top of my head, and there was fear of disapproval. And when I have that, I feel disconnected from myself. Brings up hurt, feelings of hurt.
Yeah. Oh, let me just pause for a minute. When we hear Vinder describe this, kind of a fear of disapproval, kind of hurt, disconnection from myself. Can we all first we all have compassion for that as we hear this part of hers. It's like, yes, I know that part so well, right? It might not be because I'm wearing something on my hair. It might be because, God, I got this shirt that's like 10 years old that I'm wearing, or whatever it is, or these wrinkles on my neck and all that, whatever it is. And then for us, what's your version of that expression for all of us that Vinder's describing? And for some of us, it might be like, well, wait a minute. I thought we were going into the unification of the self. We're going really spiritual today. But I want to suggest that what Vinder's pointing to might be like it could be like the deepest place we go today. And this part that is concerned about how it's being received. Is it being judged? Is it being accepted? Is it safe here? Where do you feel that? How do you know it? Where does that show up for each of us? And then Vinder, here's a question for you. What does that expression want? What does it long for? And for all of us, what's being longed for when we hear that arises in us?
Acceptance.
Mm-hmm. And when you have acceptance, when we find acceptance, what do we get? What do we have?
Love.
Love?
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nice. And then all of us.
And okay with making mistakes.
How does that translate for all of us? For whatever voice inside of us that wants to be accepted, that wants to know it's not going to be judged. What are you longing for? Acceptance, love, okay to make mistakes. Then last question. For all of us, for what's being longed for in that voice that's like, God, I'm not going to walk into that classroom as a new person, or I'm not going to walk into this party not knowing anybody, or I'm not going to come to this Zoom. I don't know who's going to be here today, or what we're going to have to do. For that part that has resistance in this way, what does it long for? And this is where we go into you'd say into the spiritual side of this. What's most like what's being longed for that's here now? For Vinder, she speaks of love, acceptance, this okayness. What's your word that's really being longed for? And what's
Safety.
most like that which is here now? Sorry?
Safety.
Safety. And then the safety that's being longed for. This can be really difficult. What's most like safety that's here intrinsically as what we call self and IFS, or beingness, or your true nature? What's most like that And you don't need to answer this. It's this beautiful inquiry as we go in to find and feel for the possibility that this wholeness, this completeness that Jack wrote me about last night is really here. How you doing, Vinder?
I'm doing okay. Just feel stuckness. Just kind of feeling stuck in my body. um,
And
just
what would words be with the stuckness as we hear, as you say, stuckness? And for all of us, as we hear Vinder's stuckness, maybe we could even feel into it. Like, what is that stuckness? Is it like this is too much? I don't know about this, or this is scary. Because we all what stuckness, and for all of us, when we find stuckness, what is that? What's that stuckness? Is it a resistance? Is it wanting to understand, wanting more safety, wanting more flow? What is stuckness? So, what would your word be for that, Vinder? If that expression, what's the stuckness?
um, I can breathe and there'll be peace. If I can breathe, like I just kind of I'm in my body. Um, uh, allowing.
How about that? As we hear Vinder say this, if I could breathe, that's in my body, sense of allowing. And we hear that's kind of what's being longed for in the stuckness. When each of us are stuck, what is being longed for? Is it like what Vinder's describing, this peace, this in the body, the space of the breath? And just my last question for us with that, when we have the stuckness that Vinder's describing, what's most like what's being longed for that's here now? What's most like it? If it's for her, she describes it as peace, this sense of being in my body, this breath, this openness. What's most like that that's causelessly, intrinsically here? This is a whole lot, Vinder, for your welcome to the group. Welcome to our playland. Thanks for diving in and taking us to such an exquisite first place today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So before we go to where we're going next, maybe we'll go to David, and maybe before we go to David, let's hear, how was that for you with Vinder? What anything bubbling? What was that like for you where she took us?
For me, it was quite freeing. I was feeling a lot of spaciousness around me, inside and outside, even before you said something about that, Sid. And where we were going with different questions, I found myself needing to go into memory to try to remember what the problem was. There was no problem. But so my flavor of stuckness was searching, seeking, looking into memory, looking into the body. It's kind of neat because in the process of doing that, of seeing that, the kind of back and forth movement of space and seeker kind of emerged in a very comfortable way.
What's that like, David? The back and forth, the spaciousness and the seeking. And just before we go, what's that for all of us? The sense of a back and forth from whatever flavor of self is here. And David, he describes it as spaciousness. And then whatever flavor of a part, of a lack, which is, in David says, seeking. What's that like for each of us? Is there a sense of a back and forth, as David's describing? And then I'm curious, David, what's that like? The back and forth. Is it like stepping back, falling back into spaciousness, and then it leans forward into seeking, or is it how does it play? What's your metaphor, your image?
It's freedom versus being tied down, or stuck is a good word that Vendor used as well. I get lost in the seeker. It confines. And then through some mysterious process, there's a falling back into openness or spaciousness, and it's freeing.
And how
And
does
it's
that
really,
happen? From
how does it
the
happen?
sense of the confine, like you notice yourself kind of confined or stuck. There's a sense of being stuck, and
Yeah.
then you say it falls back into spaciousness. Like, does something relax? Does something, or is it just noticing the sense of being confined and the stuckness, and noticing it is enough to open up to the spaciousness? How does that happen?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that's really a key kind of maneuver, if you will, because it's not a maneuver, because it happens on its own in a way. Um, it's it's looking and listening, curiosity, as you said, and letting go of the premise that I know what I'm looking at, that I know what I'm hearing. So I don't know.
I got a question for you and all of us. This is where it gets even more subtle. For all of us, this discernment between the two, between the part and the self. And in David's, it's this kind of stuckness, seeking, and then the spaciousness. And then the movement from the stuckness to the spaciousness. And David describes that, well, there's a curiosity here. There's a letting go. And that word curiosity, because it can be in classic IFS terms, it can be a part that's being curious, or it can be the self that's curious. It can be a lowercase c or an uppercase c. And just for all of us, as we notice our movement back from stuckness to spaciousness, from part to self, is it from self, is it self, or is it a wonderful, precious helper part that's helping us? It's like, oh, I'm curious. Let me look into this. Let me open up, let go. What do you find? Anything? And David, I don't mean to put you on the spot here. If you want to share anything else with that, because it's quite a subtle edge.
Another word that comes up here while I'm curious about what's going on is effortlessness. Is Yeah, so the edge could be pictured as trying or seeking or searching versus ain't doing nothing, just looking around.
And it's looking around, the effortlessness of being. Will that allow the system to either shift back to spaciousness or to find okayness with the what was the word? I'm sorry, I lost it. Vendor's word, the stuckness. To find okay with the stuckness. Can that happen in the effortlessness of just looking around? Or in your system, does it take a little bit more? Does it take a part that helps?
Yeah, I really appreciate that, because it opens the possibility of simultaneous self and parts, and not just the back and forth deal. So I feel I have a taste of that. That's lovely.
Nice. Let's just pause for everybody with that word you just used. Simultaneous self and parts. How do we make sense of that? Like at the same time, there's self here, whatever flavor it is. In David's, it's spaciousness. And while there's spaciousness, there's also awareness of parts, which might be the stuckness or seeker or whatever it is for you. Can both of them be there? Can simultaneous play in your systems? How's this going? David, let me open this up to see how this is a lot. See how this is playing for everybody. How's this playing? Any comments? Anything bubbling for anybody with this? This is this rich place that David's taking us. Sarah, we can't help it. We're looking at your face, and it's just like, tell us something. Give us a hint. Give us something.
I was a bit distracted, David. Don't want to be rude. I was a bit distracted by another delivery. I don't know why my deliveries always show up during this session. Like this is the second time this happens. So I had a nice delivery, so I was a bit distracted by that. I had some cards that arrived, and I'm gonna pull you a card.
Give us a card, Sarah. Yes.
Like this is just so much fun. Let's see. What does the collective need to hear right now? Got listen to life. I'm attentive to the world around me. Signs and symbols guide me to success. I listen and discover the way to the eternal. That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
And it has something that looks like science, light language.
Nice.
There's light going up.
Nice.
I like this sort of. So yeah, and another thing that arrived, ironically, a scarf. So I hope that makes Bender feel a little bit better. See, I wear scarves, but to family occasions, and my brother is getting engaged during the next 2 weeks, so I got a gold scarf. Like it's a bit fancier, so it's more appropriate to the event. And it just arrived, and yeah.
Beautiful,
wow.
Sarah.
So I'm a bit happy. Like, oh, delivery guys always deliver this time.
No, Sarah, you don't understand. This is serious. This is a serious group here. We're about making progress, right? This is progressive. So enough of this joy. Enough of this joy.
Joy.
Yeah.
Like a child, I discovered
Yeah.
joy in the simplicity of life. Happiness lies in magical moments, not in the material. Even the smallest joy is a great source of light.
Beautiful. I'd like to share something. This really ties me into something Jack shared with me in the middle of the night last night. It was about joy and wholeness. And it's really about where we are, where you are, as you see yourself in the screen right now. As you see your square, is it possible that that's enough? That's enough. That completion is here. That this joy that Sarah is embodying and sharing with us is here, or the stuckness that's here that David speaks of, that there's not a problem with that's how this beautiful life, that's how how life is expressing, that there is completeness here, that there's nothing that needs to change. This is the trickiness. It's kind of what David was talking about, the simultaneity of that there's self is here. Sarah uses the word eternal that she reads, this eternity, this self is here, this beingness is here. And at the same time, there's this lusciousness and this preciousness of life that's playing in our parts that get to be both. How are we doing? Any final thoughts, Sarah?
Yeah, I pulled the card balance. So yeah, it balances out each other, everything. I find balance between each sphere of my life. I'm the master of my daily life. I make time to nourish the spiritual and the physical. I bring love to my world by fulfilling the needs of my body and soul.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. How
Thank
are
you,
we
Sid.
doing? Balance. What's coming? Anything bubbling before we kind of keep going around and kind of celebrating each of us? Anything bubbling? That was a lot with the joy that Sarah just shared and the depths that David explored with us. Anything here?
The first cousin of joy is gratitude and love.
And then just to play the mystic game, like what's most like love that's here now? What's most like love that's intrinsically here, causelessly here? And what's most like gratitude that's causelessly here? Not because, gosh, Sarah's here and we get to see that beautiful smile and her sharing and her Amazon deliveries, but gratitude is here just because it's here. Anything else before we keep going around? We'll go to Nicole's next on my screen. Before we go to Nicole, anything else bubbling? Jack, Jessica.
I'm breathing. I'm grateful for the breath.
What about that? I'm grateful for the breath. I'm breathing. We might be like, breathing? Duh, I'm breathing too. But you're like, really, breath, the gratitude for the breath. Like to join in the vendor in the depth of that. Not to miss the gifts that each of us are offering, the gifts that Sarah just offered, and the gifts of vendor speaking about the breath and the shift that's happening in her and how that speaks to us. How intimately are we with each other as we journey together today? All right, Nicole, we're moving the spotlight on to Nicole. But before you say anything, just everybody, as we look at Nicole, what do you think's there? How is life moving through her? Is there the stuckness that we've been talking about? What is it? What's the background? What's the beingness? What are her parts? What's there? Gosh, it's like when the curtain opens and it's Nicole. Hey, Nicole, what's going on?
Hey, everybody. uh, yeah, I've definitely felt the stuckness. I'm not feeling it so much now. But to answer your question, it's interesting how synchronicity comes together in different things. Anyways, aversion, that's my deal, aversion. And I'm just beginning to realize how subtle it can be and how present and how. And then for the longest time, I've wondered about this innate joy. Where is that? What's going on there? And it really does seem, if you peel away some of these layers of stuff like aversion and things like that, I don't know if peel away is the right word, but if we embrace them, then joy can come through. So I've got aversion and joy at the same time, which is pretty interesting.
What's that like at the same time, aversion and joy? How do you make sense of that? Do you have an image of it? Like how does that happen?
Actually, I do have an image. I'm making some sourdough starter now. And every time I add new stuff to it, it kind of bubbles up and gets really big and fluffy. And that's kind of almost like this. It's like all of these things go in the mix and they create this bubbly thing.
And the aversion. how do you, as we have both this, the joy and the aversion and the bubbliness, how is the aversion experienced? Like, is it, some of us experience it as a voice, like we hear like a no or different voices for aversion. Others times it's just a feeling, it's a contraction. And for others, it's an image. So how does this aversion, how do you experience it? How do you know it?
It feels like shrinking, feels like shrinking, feels like I'm shrinking back. That's your safety thing was reaching out, and I thought, wow, wouldn't that be interesting? That's like the exact opposite. If I go someplace where I don't know anybody, I like whoosh, shrink back. That's how I get safety. It's so interesting.
And so you know aversion is here. The way you know it's here is something is kind of shrinking back.
I feel it a little bit, kind of like on, it's weird, but it's kind of like on the border of things. How you can have shrinking on the border, I don't know, but that's kind of what it feels like. But then there's this kind of an openness inside where everything can kind of swim around.
Mm. As Nicole leads us here, she shares what's here for her and this openness. Everything can kind of swim around. And the bubbling, the joy that's here. Part of this gift, you know, and if there's one of the primary objectives of IFS, they call it self-leadership, getting to know self, getting to know the flavors of this intrinsic in our being. And like we have, I don't know if I told you this, we brought in this very special guest today to help us find self, to help us know self. And her name is Nicole. And she's representing this joy, this openness, flavor of self. And just I'm gonna invite you to see if you can, how do you resonate with that? And for some of us, we hear her speaking of it and we're like, yes, that resonates. I know it. And for others, we can even go more somatically. It's almost like a tuning fork. We can feel into this that Nicole is bringing to us, the gift of this. And we can like, wow, I can find a different flavor of joy. Or maybe it's the image that she said, this openness. And on the outskirts of the openness, there's resistance, there's this aversion, but inside there's this openness, this joy. What's this like to receive this gift from our special guest today of self? What's that like? Tell us more, Nicole. What else you'd like to share now that I've really put you on the spot here? And you know, anything else you'd like to tell us about?
Oh. Well, there is that part, that voice that says, oh my gosh, why can't it always be like this?
And where does that voice is? It's like you described the aversion on the outskirts, the voice that says, why can't it always be like this? Where do you find that? Where do you find that in the space?
It's like it's coming from another room almost. It's kind of like an echo from something.
So in comparison for your system, if you know that voice, like why can't it always be like this? Or why can't it be more like Nicole's joy that's here now? Or why can't it be more like the delight that Sarah was sharing with us? That whatever voice that is it, where do you hear it? Is it like Nicole's? It's like an echo, like almost from another room? Or is it like more immediate, more like, well, it's right in front of me. It's like this big thing in front of me, this thing. I want it to be different. I want it to be like this more. I want it to be different. Where do you hear that? What else, Nicole?
Oh, I kind of feel like that covers it for today, Sid.
Oh.
Thank you.
Mm. But before we leave you, just curious if there's anything that's coming up in the group with we have our guest Nicole here, anything that's bubbling for anyone that you'd like to share.
Yeah. Is it okay if I share? For me, it was more of a thought that you spent enough time on your self-care today. It's just almost like the edge that you should be doing other stuff. This is my part.
Yes. And where do you hear that part? Like Nicole was describing, it was almost like an echo from another room. Is yours more often for me, they're very immediate, like the right in my head or outside my head where I hear them. Where do you find that thought,
It is,
Vinder?
it is, it's my part. It's inside of me.
Yeah. And then this is a question. Can you even have a sense of locating it inside of you? Just for all of us, whatever part's loudest that they're sharing one, where do you find it? Where does it, if it's inside of me, where is it inside of me? And there's a reason for this. This is one of the great gifts of IFS. Like when we can, by first labeling it as a part and then finding a sense of a location for it, it allows us to have space from it in being aware of it instead of being aware as it. It's a big, big deal.
I'm feeling like it's in my stomach and in my abdomen area. It's almost like sharp, feeling sharpness, irritability type of thing, irritable.
And then my question for all of us, as we notice whatever that part is for us, whatever our version of Vinder's part is, we all have a part like, I'm guessing we all have a part like that. It might be in my stomach, like this, like at Vinder's where it's sharp, or it might be more distant, like Nicole's. Is it accepted? Is it welcomed? Is it okay that it's there? And the way I look at that is it's just being met? Is it just being met by self? Is it just a sense of welcoming? But most of the time in my system, there's a part that comes up and says, no, I don't like this. I want this to change. I want this sharpness, this pain, this discomfort to change. And then we just notice that there's a part that comes up in response. And then is that also being welcomed? Let me see what else is here. What else is coming up, group? After with Vinder's share and Nicole's share. What else is here for us? And maybe I'll ask Nicole then. Nicole, when you hear Vinder's sharing about the sharpness of this in her belly, what anything you'd like to share, Nicole, from this space that you're in today?
Well, I can definitely relate to that whole region down there. That's where a lot of my stuff comes from or goes to. I can definitely relate. Right now, it's feeling more like excitement down there and kind of this bubbly excitement.
And it may be a follow-up question for you and everyone. As we notice the parts that are here, and we're playing with Nicole's part, this aversion, and this other part that says, I'd like this to stay. I really like this joy and this openness that's here. I'd like it to stay. Here's my question for all of us. Are our parts entirely separate from this self, from this beingness, from this okayness, perhaps from this joy, this love? Are they entirely separate from it? Or can you find that there's some self that pervades even the part itself, even the contraction, even the want? Any sense on that, Nicole?
Yeah, that's a wonderful way to put it. I do feel like when you were talking, it was like all the parts kind of coalesce and kind of all kind of went into the center together. Pervaded by self. I like that.
And then what's the shift in that? We were playing with David, had this shift from kind of stuckness and seeking to spaciousness. And then if we play with that in a little different way, and then we went to simultaneity with him. And then what about the shift from like knowing parts as completely separate to knowing, well, there's a little pervadedness of self in the parts. They're not completely separate. What about that move in our systems? Any final comments, Nicole?
No, that's a lot, Sid. That's good. That's good stuff. Yeah, so the gratitude, I'm feeling the gratitude.
Yeah, the gift of the 8 of us being here, or the 7 of us being here, 6 of us being here with you. That we don't have to do this by ourselves. When we find, like Vinder was describing, like a part, it's just really, you can really feel it, the stuckness, and maybe it's in our belly. It's so intimate with us. And then there's a sense of self. We often look just here for self, but there's 6 of us with you, and we have the gift of Nicole today with this joy and openness. And so literally, if there's a sense of being kind of gets fixated on a part, we can just notice Nicole. We can notice the self that is here in her square, and we can just let ourselves resonate as that. Just know this joy that's here. All right, who wants to go next? Jack, Jessica.
Oh, I wanted to say something. It's good to see Jack again. It's been a while.
I can go next.
Yay!
I feel like I've had some pretty big shifts inside in the past week. And so there's a fear here again that I haven't felt for a while. And just parts wondering what it will be like to be here now. And even though I don't actually feel that different, but my parts are afraid again for some reason. Nicole, I really resonated with what you said. The same reaction to Sid, you're connecting for safety, because I feel I had the same, like, oh, I wonder what that would be like, because I connect when I feel safe. So I just wanted to say I really resonate with that.
Jessica, you said there was a shift had happened.
Mhm.
And there's something kind of new, and then parts are kind of a little uncertain, or you're a little fearful about it. Like, what's this going to be like? What was the shift? What occurred?
Oh my goodness. I joined a group unburdening of ancestral burdens. And I don't have a good relationship with my ancestors. I have what I feel is this energy from them on both sides of my family of harm that expects to go unchecked. And so being someone who's saying it ends with me feels like a difficult place to be, my ancestors. And so there was this unburdening, like just a group meditation thing, and they said, imagine a tree and yourself as a tree. And I've always felt like there's this energy that I'm trying to break through. And I kept picturing a flower trying to bloom. And during the meditation, I thought, what if I'm meant to be a whole tree? And then I thought, what if I already am a tree? And then I thought, what if I keep going back to this seed that can't break through because I'm afraid to be the tree, but secretly I've already grown a whole tree and I already have solid trunk and roots that go deep. And then I have sort of a connection with trees already. And so I felt like, in a way, the trees are my ancestors. And then I had this sense of pushing back on my ancestors and telling them that relationship depends on them and how they show up. And I feel freer now, just in general, about not taking on what belongs to someone else and expecting people to show up differently if they want relationship. But it's very new and my parts don't know what to make.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
Let me just pause here for everyone. Right, Jessica, I mean, this ancestral unburdening where she just provided a whole like aspect of IFS there. It's like a whole class in what she just shared. And notice how your system is responding to this. How's it responding to Jessica? Where's it going with this? Is it seeing the complete tree, the perfection, the beauty of Jessica? Is it seeing that? Is there an understanding part? It's like, wow, I really want to follow this and like understand like what she's seeing. And she talks about being the seed that's scared and then being the complete tree with the roots and the sense of not taking on what belongs to the ancestors. It's like, where does your system go with this? Is it an understanding part? Is it one that's trying to be like, what about, how does this relate to me? Oh, wow, I can relate to that. And you have parts that resonate and make sense of it. What's happening as we're with Jessica? And as she describes, this is new and I'm not sure and parts are uncertain. Can you have compassion for that? Is it an compassion for her parts and her system that's like, wow, something's changed here, something. And can you find that in your own system when things get when something changes? He's a little discombobulated, uncertain, maybe doesn't find safe and secure. And is it okay that that's happening with Jessica, that this is happening? And is it okay when that's here for us? Jessica, how are the parts doing with this? How is your system doing? You shared there was a lot that seems to be going on there. How are your parts doing? Are there some parts that get really scared about this? Like, what do you mean the tree's already here and the roots are here and the ancestors, well, they can keep their stuff. It's, it stops here. How do your parts respond to that? How's it going inside?
I don't know if this answers your question. If it's not, but what I started with at the beginning of the call was this morning I have felt all over my body this message of no one loves me. And it's like underneath the message that parts are carrying. So I might have a part that says there's no one to help, but then underneath that is because no one loves me. And it's like all over my body, like all my parts, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And then as we were sitting here, I felt this rage inside. And I just wanted to say, yes, little one, show me your rage. And that's where all this has been this morning.
Okay. How about that line? Yes, little one, show me your rage. Like, are you all like in my system's like, God, I'm wanting Jessica to come visit my system. Like I have parts that want to be met that way. Parts in rage, frustration, not fair, parts that have been pushed down. It's like, yes, little one, show me your rage. It's like the welcoming, the love of what's here. Really, we play with this idea of the Rumi's guest house, that everything welcome, all guests, or they're throwing a birthday party for our parts, or this infinite hot tub, everything being welcomed. Yes, little one, show me your rage. Does it require a part to say that? Like we have parts, I have parts that will say that will help. Does it require a part to say that? Or is that also, is that also the very nature of this beingness, of this awareness, of this self that we speak of in IFS? Is it just, yes, welcome, show me, be welcomed here? And what's it like for your parts when they experience that? If Jessica came to visit your inner world and she said to your parts, yes, little one, show me your rage. All of your little ones are welcomed here. We often find others help us. We find this through others often, but what if that was really here? What's that like for your parts? What you got, Jessica?
That's all I got, Sid. That's all I got.
Well, we can't pass this other part that you did. I just want the first thing that you were saying, this you started today with, no one loves me. No
Yeah.
one loves me. First, when we hear that in Jessica, that is kind of in her exiles, in her system, there's this little maybe background sound, background noise, background, like Nicole was describing this from far away as she was hearing the part, and Jessica's, it might be in like this little music that's going through, nobody loves me, this little tune in her system. When we hear that, how do we respond to Jessica's system? This is important. How we respond to her. How do we, what responds in your system towards that when you hear nobody loves me, in a part that might really believe that, or many parts that believe that? How do you respond to her? What responds? And then let's take it in here. What's your version of no one loves me? For some of us, I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. I did it wrong. And this is the shame that, comes from many of us as children that we just carry with us. Or like at Jessica's, ancestrally, there's a sense of no one love. It can just be ancestral. It can be absolutely not ours. Absolutely not ours. It's something just adopted it. No one loves me. Whatever your version of is that. See if you can, but you don't have to push it, because we're just being open here and welcoming. But no one loves me. How is that met in your system? Does a protector come up and say, that's too much, I'm not going there right now? And if that is perfect, we just love that protector that says, we're not going there. For whatever reason, Jessica's system has really opened up to this right now, but it all happens organically, right? We don't push this. We're not like, hey, let's be Indiana Jones and go find that no one loves me. Let's go on our great. No, we don't do that. We just wait and see it. And so how is it met in you that no one loves me? And what's that like? Like, is it like it's, sometimes Nicole describes this like very still lake, this pond. Is it a sense that the no one loves me is just being welcomed in this stillness, this pond, this love? What's it being welcomed by in you? How does self meet the contraction? Is it a connectedness? Is it a care? Is it a tenderness? Anything else you'd like to share, Jessica? I know you love being put on the spot.
My favorite. I'm good. Thanks, Sid.
Right. Wow.
Can I jump in here for a sec? I strongly related, it opened a seeing that I hadn't seen before, Jessica's insights. This nobody loves me deal is really close to, if not identical to, my searcher, seeker, striver. It's like, for me, it's like, okay, I'm all alone. Nobody loves me. I'll just do it all on my own. The hell with all of you. And I don't need you. So yeah, it's of course the seeing of it is very liberating. So thank you all. Thank you, Jessica.
How about that? What David, what you're saying here, what David's saying, just the seeing of it is liberating. Like, do we have to even go any further than this? Just the aha that David's describing of seeing, I'm all alone. Well, I'll just do it all on my own. I don't need you. As we hear that from David and we hear that from Jessica, that no one loves me, just notice if there's your version of it. And might have parts that be like, God, I need to heal this. I need to do something about this. I need to fix this. I need to welcome this. But this wonderful thing with IFS, it can be just being aware of it, just seeing it, like David's sharing with us, just seeing it. And then lastly, as we see it, where is it? Where do we see it? Like, Vinder was describing in her belly. Nicole was describing it was like on the outskirts. This no one loves me. This I am alone. Just do it all on my own. I don't need you. Where do we hear that? So some people, Byron Katie calls it like the underworld. It's almost like this basement that they exist in her system. What's it like in yours? Where do you find it? David, where do you, when you're aware of this, and I don't want to push it. If that just doesn't come naturally, to skip it, because but if there is a sense of location, what you find?
Really deep, shadowed, dark corner. that wants to be free, but is imprisoned. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it in here? I'm describing it. I'm not giving a bodily location. So, but that's all I got.
Perfect. Do we all know that place that David just described? Deep, dark shadow, dark corner, imprisoned. What's our version of that? Without going there, we're not pushing. We're not doing Indiana Jones. We're just being aware of, do you have a place like that in your system? And we can be miles away from it. We don't have to get close. No need to get close to any of this. We can be miles away from it. And then this really scary question I have for David and for us with this, and then we'll move on, because this is scary territory. Is it okay that that is there? Is it okay that there's a dark, shadowy corner that feels like a prison someplace in our system? Is it okay that that's there? If there's anything else that's bubbling for you, David, you're welcome to, but there's no need, because this is like more than plenty.
Well, the challenge of your question was more than plenty, my friend. That's a big shot across the bow. Finding that okayness for something that is that deep and retreated to this dark corner of this prison so that it wouldn't have to be dealt with. And now you're saying, is it okay to see it and know it and be it? So it's like, I got a little rage for you, buddy, for bringing that up.
Awesome. But I'm gonna say we don't have to go that far with to see it, to be it. There's just maybe just the okayness that it's here, the okayness that it's arising, like Jessica's, yes, little ones. It's that there's this rage that's here, whatever's there, whatever it is. Yes, little one. It's just the sense of welcoming what's here. And don't go there. We're not going to go. Don't go there. Don't go there. Don't be it. Don't do anything with it. Just to be the okayness that it's here. Because this is a path in itself. Let's see if we can find this one. And then we'll jump over to Jack. But what about For some people, they don't even do the healing. They don't even go and do the unburdening. They don't do any of that stuff. They just stop with the okayness. And wow, that can be like the whole freaking journey. This okayness with what's here. And then everything else just happens in its own time, on its own. Just the okayness that there's that dark shadow. That there are these things that David's been pointing to. And you guys could, David, the rage at Sid, whatever that part was that has us, like, why the hell are you doing this? It's like, we don't want to jump to Jack without giving that space. If that part of you that was like, whoa, stop it. What the hell? Why are you asking these questions? Anything that would like to be shared, David?
There's a recognition right now that I don't have to do anything. That put it theologically, God's Spirit is already there working. And I'm seeing all this stuff, and it's all happening. I don't need to do anything for this process to go on. And yeah, it's all going on. So yeah, it's a good thing.
Just for all of us, this part of David's that was like, no, stop. I want to suggest that maybe that part is this superhero in our systems, the ones that kind of gauge it. And it's like, whoa, we're just gonna. This was enough. This was a lot, and it keeps us right from re-triggering our systems. It keeps us from re-triggering these parts, like what David pointed out, like the no, enough. And can we all find our version of that part that says enough? No, I'm not gonna go do this I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna do that. No. The wisdom of our system that says that. Like, it's almost like if you're going jogging or doing some sport or doing something, and something in your body's like, okay, I need to rest now. Because you know what happens? You push it too far, you hurt yourself. There's a wisdom that stops it. Same thing with David. Celebrate that. Right? Anything, before we go to Jack, anything bubbling? Anybody? Everybody doing okay? This is everybody doing okay? Everybody doing okay? Just to notice that, notice what's here. What parts are here for you? Is it like, wow, where David took us? Wow, where Jessica took us? Or like, whoa, I'm not going there. Like, what are your parts that are here? Or critic, my system should be more like, it's comparing, it's judging. Or again, I want more. No, I don't want to talk. I don't want to do any more of this David stuff. I'm going to go to Nicole. I want to be about what Nicole was pointing to. That's what I'm wanting. Like, what's here for you? What parts are here? And what are they arising in? What's the beingness that's here? What's the self? What's the flavor? What's the space? Okay. Everybody okay? We'll go to Jack in a minute. Everybody, unless something comes up, we'll go. Okay. What a fun ride today. All right, Jack, where are you going with us today? What you got for us?
I'm seeing sort of a process or process or path. It's not really a path, but it's like going from something. Oh, look at all these parts, aren't they something, right? Or however you want it. From something to nothing, to like resting in that unconditioned awareness that's pure subjective, and anything you can say about it's not right, including what I just said, right? which the freedom of that lets everything be open to it because it can't be harmed. There's nothing there to harm, right? It's not even, that's not even an option for it, right? That's because there's no thing there, you don't even know what it is, right? So going from that something to the nothing, then to the everything. So that freedom of awareness of whatever arises without aversion, because how can you hurt nothing, right? How can you hurt that pure subject, right? Lets that sense of a witnessing awareness dissolve away to just like becoming everything. And that feeling for me of the witness is that joyful freedom of being free, right? And when that dissolves away and I sort of become headless, it's you could describe it as love, not that you have to try to love, but because you're everything, there's nothing in the just like I love my hand, or it's just like loving what you are in an interesting way. So I'm sort of seeing that in a sense as a progression, and things can come up, and it's like, well, let me figure out these things here, let me figure out these parts. What's going on with that? And that's sort of what's going on sometimes. And then if I can just relax into that pure unconditioned awareness that's always there. That's the interesting thing about it. It's always there. It's not like I have to look. I mean, it's not like I have to do something for it to be there, which is nice, right? That's always there kind of thing to keep asking about, right? And then just drop back into that headless space of, yeah, it's all me. So what's going on for me right now? I got this pain in my lower back here that I've been fighting with for about a week and a half, let me tell you. And there's parts of me that definitely want that to change, but it feels like it got a little better yesterday, but I don't want to jinx it. So that's kind of what's going on here.
Wow. Okay, so this is just how did this translate for each of us, what Jack just shared? Mostly to understand where did you go with this, with what Jack shared? It's really been kind of his version of what we've been doing today as we were working with David, from the sense of the back and forth, from the seeker to the spaciousness. And Jack describes it just even simpler as something to nothing, from parts to self, from something, calling this nothing, this freedom, this beingness of self. And you can correct me in just a moment, Jack, but that nothing can be harmed, this self, this beingness. And so he describes it back and forth, something to nothing. And then he goes to that third place we were talking about when we were working with Nicole, and we were talking about the pervasiveness of self, the sense of then their parts and their self, and then can self, you notice that they're not necessarily separate. And then Jack just took that a lot further. This sense that with everything is of this self, everything is of this freedom, the parts are of this, everything is an expression of this love. And there becomes a sense of even loving what you are, that there's a recognition as this deepens that, wow, I am this self, this beingness, and wow, but it's not, there's no longer parts that are separate from this. It's like everything that's arising is of this love. How does that play in your system? And then just a little caveat, when I hear someone like Jack speak, I often have a spiritual achiever that comes up that'll be like, oh, wow, I need that. I want to be more like that everything is love. Everything is this dance of joy, this dance of Leela. And to notice that's just the part that comes up, right? Just like the parts that came up in me and probably others here when Nicole was sharing about this joy that was here. And just notice if there's a spiritual achiever that comes up or a critic that comes up in us as we hear Jack speak about this. And can we see the innocence of that part, whatever part that comes up? All right, back to you, Jack. How did I do? I was trying to translate
Yeah,
this
it's not like it's
into
a bad part. It's not like it's a bad part that comes up, right? But it can get in the way. Like you say, it can get in the way of, yeah. Get in
What's
the
it
way
like
of
when it's this
nothing, yeah.
everything? What's it like when it's this everything, Jack? When it is, wow, all of this is love and it's what I am and everything
I don't
that's
know, just
coming up
like
is
pick out someone in your life. Hopefully you got someone like this, like that's just so easy to love. Like I might pick out my daughter or my granddaughter, right? There's like a feeling there that it's just so easy to love them, right? I care about them, right? I want them to be happy. And just feeling that for everything. That's what it's like, sort of. And to put words on it, I don't know. It's not something. It's not something you can try to get. Like I said, the spiritual achiever can get in the way because, yeah, the spirit wanting to get there can get in the way. Which is there's a paradox there, right? That you got to be able to live around, I guess. So, yeah, it's like getting through the paradoxes around everything I just said, I guess.
nice. Anything bubbling? How's everybody doing with what just Jack shared? Jack, anything else you'd like to share in bringing it together and wrapping it up? This that you've shared with us.
Yeah, I still got this pain in my lower back area. No, I'm good, thank you.
Wow.
Hey, Jack, thanks for that. I what popped up here is why, yeah, I see why traditions, various spiritual traditions use the word awakening. Because what you said was, I mean, words are lousy, like you said. But having said that, there was a moment of awakening and resonating and being, as far as I can tell, exactly what you're talking about. So thanks for that.
Isn't it such a gift? Like each of us that are here that are offering us these windows. I mean, the window that Jack just opened for us, and how David's system responds to it. Anything else with Jack with the sharing before we go to our friend Sarah?
I'm complete.
Thank you, Jack. Before we go to Sarah, I know we've been together for an hour and 15 minutes, and we might be like, ooh, like what's here? Maybe there's some exhaustion here. Maybe it's like, wow, I really need to pee. Can I hold it for another 15 minutes? And we just, what's here? What's here? What's arising? It's an understanding part, showing like, how can I really follow what Jack just shared? Whoa, that's a lot there. And then as we move towards Sarah, what's happening? What do you think's behind the curtain right now? Behind the curtain of Sarah, what's happening there? Is it like enthusiasm? Wow, I love this Amazon package and what I got. Is it like, what's going on? Is she like thinking about what David just shared? It's like, what are her parts? And what are they arising in? What's the beingness? And some of us might even be able to feel it as we look at Sarah. We might even be able to know some of what's happening in her system just for resonance or guessing through a resonance in us. What's there? What's happening in Sarah? What's the theater of Sarah? Hey, Sarah, what's happening?
Well, thank you, everyone. Well, it brought up a lot for me. It started with think it started with Jessica, with No One Loves Me. Then I realized this No One Loves Me is like an echo from another room, something that Nicole said. And I realized, oh, this is not me, and not a part of me that feels that way. It's something else. Then it brought up even more. No one loves me. Why would anyone love me? No one wants you. You're hard to love. You're hard to love came up with Jack when he mentioned his daughter and granddaughter, how they're easy to love. That brought up immediately the voice that said, you're hard to love. So all of these voices, like, they were the burdens, like, from my inner child and from my teenager parts. You know, they got these burdens. No one loves me. Why would anyone love you? You're hard to love. And then I realized, oh, these are legacy burdens from my parents and from teachers, from other people that said mean things to me, that made these inner children and teenager parts, and even some adult parts, like, these burdens are not mine. These are legacy burdens from these people. And I just felt so much compassion for all of my parts that had these burdens. Like, thank God this is not me. Like, I was always thinking, hey, like, is there like a self-hating part within me that would say these mean things to me, like a critic? But my critic is not that harsh. You know, my critic is like, he has good intentions to motivate me to do better, or to do things in a better way, or like whatever the intention, it's always good. The critical voice. But the other really mean things, the intention behind them is like to break me, or to break the part of me at that age, you know, to make it feel unloved, unwanted, insecure. So the bad intention is from a legacy burden, but not from my critic. No, my critic is too innocent for that. So I just let my critic off the hook because I always thought, oh, you're so harsh. Why do you say such mean things? But oh no, it's not the critic. It's a voice from another room. And that was such a relief. So there was that. So this is what's been bubbling up. And the more I wrote down these phrases, the more of them came. And I realized, oh, there's so much burdens from other people that I'm carrying that are not even mine. And it's just a relief to know, like, oh, this is not me. This is not mine. Now I can just let it go and just be and just love my parts. And when I listen to myself, it says, I love me. And to my parts, I love all of me. I love all of you. You're all loved. You're all welcome. And they feel welcomed and they feel good. And it's a relief for my inner children and teenager parts.
All right, that was our, like, Steve Jobs and Apple thing. We had one last thing. This was the big surprise for us all today, was what Sarah just shared. The compassion that she has, so much compassion she describes that she has for these parts that are carrying these burdens, these ancestral burdens that are not hers. No one loves me. You are hard to love. Ancestral burdens that she recognizes are not hers. And even her critic, he's like, oh, my critic is way too innocent. It's there to help me. These are not mine. They're not me. They're not mine. How about that clarity, that absolute clarity that we hear from Sarah? At the same time, they're not mine. And then there's this compassion. There's this so much compassion for the parts of her system, for her precious parts that are carrying these burdens. When Sarah speaks of the innocence of her critic, I'm going to push the edge a little bit for us. Are we able to see the innocence of her parts that she has compassion for? Can we discern between the innocence of the parts and these legacy burdens they carry? No one loves me. You're too hard to love. That these burdens can be here, but the parts that carry them, that Sarah, that there's just innocence there. These ancestral parts, these ancestral burdens that aren't hers, that there's innocence that carries them, just as she spoke about her critic. You could feel it. You could feel the love that was there as she spoke of the innocence of her critic. Are we able to see her parts, even the ones that just might be overwhelmed by these ancestral burdens, the weight of them, like a little kid with a huge backpack? We see the innocence of that. And Jessica helped us. Jessica opened all this up for us in the freedom that she's finding in her system and in the openness. Can we see the innocence in Sarah's system? This is a big deal. This is a real gift. This is why I love these groups better than one-on-one. Because if we can see the innocence in Sarah's parts, something like that can be a real tipping point for our own systems. Like these ancestral burdens, they're not mine. They're not mine. This isn't me. This weight, these big backpacks that I've been carrying, the shame, the wrongness, that I'm not good enough, I can't be loved. If we can see just what Sarah's pointing to, the innocence of her parts, and then the legacy burdens that are being carried, but the innocence of the parts that are carrying them, if we can see it in her system, it'll make it much easier to find it in our own system, because there is only innocence here. There's only innocence in these parts. And I'm speaking subjectively from my experiences for each of us to find for ourselves. Then can you taste this, resonate with this inside of you? These parts that feel so much weight and contraction, and what we call these exiles, these ones that are burdened. Can you taste, can you glimpse the innocence of your parts, the innocence of these parts? And even maybe see, like, I really see like big backpacks of burdens that they're carrying, these ancestral burdens. Oh my God, these little parts in these big backpacks, these ancestral burdens that aren't mine, they're not yours. Wow, we've got 5 minutes left. Sarah, you want to say some final words on this, and we'll see open it up for the group.
Yes, there was one thing that stood out for me. What is wrong with you? And then all of them, like the echo of, oh, what is wrong with me? And they feel this deep shame and hurt. And like, oh, what is wrong with me? And then there's the sound of self. Oh, nothing is wrong with you. You're perfect. I love you. And they're just comforted by that. Like, oh, nothing is wrong with you. I love you.
We find the two in our systems, just like we were playing with David, the back and forth. The what's wrong with you? These are the burdens. And then self. Nothing's wrong with you. I love you. Find the two. Sarah, will you stay on for a moment afterwards? I have a question for you. So how are we doing? Anything? We've just got 3 more minutes. Anything that would like to be shared with what Sarah just shared, or what's bubbling inside of you? Can we get? This was so precious what Sarah said. I'd love to have it if one person could share something, just a little reflection of it. I just don't want Sarah to feel like she's all out here by herself in what she just shared with us.
Yeah, I just felt the power of switching from something to nothing, and what Sarah said. Yeah, I'm not those. I'm not this. I'm not that. The power of that just felt really strong for me.
Thank you, Jack.
Parts don't really want to speak, but what you said, my critic's not that harsh. That was so lovely. I just felt that in my system. Like my critic felt that too. Like, yes, I'm not harsh. I am innocent. I'm just trying to help.
Yes, you're off the hook.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other final words as we move towards closure together today?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sid.
Yes. Just for all of us. This is one of my favorite groups ever that we did today. It's really one of my favorite groups ever. And just for a moment, just if we could each take some celebration of our contribution through just sharing ourselves and how we created this today and where we went and how we contributed to each of us. All you have to do is look at these windows and you can notice, wow, that's where David took us, where Nicole, where Sarah, where Jessica, where Jack, where Vinder took us today. Wow. What a group. What a beautiful exploration. What a beautiful spontaneous love affair with the celebration of life. Just thank you everybody. Such a treat being with you. And come back again. See you later.
Thank you.